We're on.
There we go. All right. I'm sorry. I'm still hearing Good Morning
Where's the
America
theme
in my
music?
ear.
Where's the theme music?
We have
Where's the
programming
theme
in our
Oh my
music?
goodness.
What's
That's
going
why.
on here? There we go.
There we go.
8:15. Thanks for the heads up. I'm getting all the notes ready.
I was like, "Wait, is that us?"
It's been
So-
that kind of morning.
Yes,
right?
it certainly
Just,
has.
A lot of information coming in. So we're going to bring you the very latest. Of course, the story that is making everyone talk around the world. A lot of broken hearts around the world. That suicide bombing that happened in Manchester overnight. Ariana Grande was holding a concert. At the end of the concert, she walked off the stage and boom. I mean, we've seen countless videos. Dina, you can chime in on this because you've been seeing all the videos and hearing firsthand all of the destruction that's been happening, and the parents who have been screaming and the kids who have been screaming. We know that the two of the 22 victims have been identified.
Right.
And so we have 18-year-old Georgina Collender. So that information came in during the show. She was a huge Ariana Grande fan. She had a picture with Ariana Grande from 2 years ago when she was just 16 years old, saying she was my hero. She couldn't wait to see Ariana perform on Sunday night in Manchester, and she had a chance to, but unfortunately she did die. Also, an 8-year-old. I think when this news came down, it was like, what? It made you really sit back and go, oh, there were kids in that audience. 8-year-old. Her name was Safi Roussos. Adorable girl, and her mother and her sister are at the concert with her. They're both injured this morning.
Right.
They're part of the 59 people who have been injured. We're also learning that 12 kids under the age of 16 were part of the 59 people who have been injured. So I think that just really goes to show what kind of fan base, and we'll get into a little bit more about Ariana's fan base. Now it is much younger. We don't know this morning what the motive is behind this bombing. ISIS has claimed responsibility for this, so that obviously confirms that this was an act of terrorism.
Right.
But Dina, do you want to go into a little bit more of what it was like when you first learned about
Yeah.
the new information coming in
Right.
this morning?
So it was just, I mean, you're looking at video now. This was everybody scrambling in the aftermath. And so it was when the concert wrapped up that suicide bomb went off right outside of the doors to the concert hall. And again, I think 21,000 people.
21,000 capacity venue, yeah.
And so it happened right at the end of the concert. I've seen reports that Ariana Grande was actually on her way back to the dressing room at the time. They were not injured, her and her band members and the people who are on her team.
Right.
But again, we know that at least 59 people were hurt, and among those injuries, several are life-threatening. And so we may see the death toll, unfortunately, continue to rise. And that's why we wanted to take such a somber approach with our stories today, because this is really the big news of the day. Twitter, Facebook, social media playing a huge role in how people reached out to one another. Because this is such a young fan base, a lot of teens and preteens were there alone or with each other and didn't have family members, or if they did, they got separated. So many people were actually going to Twitter. We first want to show you Ariana Grande, and she also went on Twitter last night saying that she was broken.
No words, right?
Just absolutely, yeah. She said, you know, from the bottom of my heart, I am so sorry. I don't have words. And then we're seeing images like this of people posting photos of their family members who are still missing. And everything from 15-year-olds to 13-year-olds on up to 18-year-olds still being among some of those who they have not been able to find. And this is Olivia Campbell. She is 15. Her mom has been looking for her. She's been all over the media trying to say, if you've seen my daughter, please let me know. There are other cases where these missing people have, in fact, been found. This is a brother-sister who are still missing as well. But in the next slide, you're going to see actually a young girl. Her name is Heather. And her friends actually put out, hey, my friend in a yellow sweatshirt has gone missing. After the concert, don't know where she is. Another Twitter user replied back to this saying, we have your friend. She was at the hotel with us after because she didn't have anywhere to go. So now Room 4 Manchester is trending all over social media, and people are offering places to go, hotel rooms to stay at. Uber and Lyft are offering free rides. I mean, the reach of this because of social media has just been powerful.
And we hear a lot of talk about social media. We talk about it a lot on Extra Shot about the bad side of social media. But in times like this, we kind of see what it can actually be used for and the good that it can do, because before, let's say back in the 90s, if something like this were to happen, God forbid, I don't know how we would get in contact pre-cell phone, pre-social media, pre-email, like what we would do in those times. But now in some cases, people are just a click away.
Right.
You can, because the first thing most people would do is, I have a good friend, Sophia, who's traveling to London today, and she was saying to us, she was like, well, I'll update you guys on social media every day to make sure that I'm okay. As where back in old school times, we would just have to call and that's it. Just
wait for her to get home,
Wait for her to
and
get
then
home
no
and
one
wait by the
wants to pay
phone.
that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
even by your house phone, because cell phones weren't even a thing. So I think right now we're actually seeing the good that it can do, and a lot of people are heading there first to make sure people are okay, to get information, to get your breaking news, to get anything you need about this
And
situation.
Yeah.
Facebook immediately had put in that safety check
Yeah.
for people. And I know this is a feature they had put into play. It was during one of the hurricanes years ago, where it's when something of mass destruction happens like that, and using social media, you can go onto Facebook if you are part of this situation and just click that I am okay,
Right.
or that I am not okay.
Yeah.
And so it immediately alerts friends of yours. Say you're overseas or you live overseas, it alerts your friends, a part of your social media Facebook
Right.
network, that either you are okay or you are not. So the
The
goodness for
immediacy of it.
Facebook.
And let's be honest, in today's time, you probably have a lot of people on your Facebook feed that you may not have even realized were gone. I have a cousin right now and his wife, they're in London, and they checked in to say that they were there and they're okay.
So they use that safety
and they
feature.
use the safety feature. And I think it's just it's so awful what happened, and I'm looking at some of the positive posts that have come out of this, the outreach that people have been posting, Pray for Manchester, and showing their solidarity. Even celebrities and other musicians who have come forward to say that they are also thinking and praying for these people. And I hope that in some way people can find solace in this. I have a question though for those watching. If you're a parent, how are you handling these conversations with your kids today? Because I listened to a woman driving in on CNN this morning saying that her 8-year-old was at that concert yesterday and she was in hysterics, wondering if this person who did this was going to come to their school and if they were
Their
going to
mind
be...
goes in so many directions.
Absolutely. And she was only 8 years old. And I mean, this is the reality that we face right now. And unfortunately, while we have a lot of different agencies trying to combat this, it's happening. So if you're a parent, are you choosing not to talk to your kids about this because you don't want to instill fear in them? Or are you having these conversations because I'm sure it's going around at school anyway?
I'm
And it
sure there's a
changes the
hesitation
conversation.
when you send your kid off, to their first concert. Think about how many kids in that audience were able to go to their first concert solo without mom and dad. I remember my first
Celebration.
concert.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was in sync. You go without mom and dad. It's a whole different experience. You're exploring your passion, right? Your passion for music. You're exploring individuality. You're knowing what it's like to be out in the world alone, and you're celebrating. And then something like this happens, and it's
Right.
like, where's mom and dad? And then where do you go? I mean, do kids these days get trained in school as to what happens in situations like this? What do you do if your cell phones are shut down? They don't work. Everyone's trying to hop on social media. That doesn't work. Where do you go? And I guess that's why the hashtags are so important. Because I think that's what kids, that generation, knows so well,
Yeah.
right? Is how to hop on social media and at least talk about it. See how many videos were coming from this immediately? I think to myself, would I start rolling
I know.
a
Yeah.
video if this was happening? But these kids, again, it's what they know. It's a form of comfort for them to, like, if I record this, this is proof that I was here, and not for the likes, but it's for, let me just get that information out.
Yeah.
So I think, like, to Cornelia's point, that this has been putting social media in the light to say, hey, yes, it is necessary in times like this. But I just hurt for those families and the 8-year-old. And like you said,
Yeah.
22 people confirmed dead.
Yeah.
That number might go up because
And
we just don't know.
to play devil's advocate, I know social media can be used for good, but also I have seen this morning on Twitter people saying the more the media publicizes this, the more people get these copycat ideas. And so is that a concern of yours? I mean, when we cover these stories, clearly we're a news organization and we're going to cover them, but I know that is a fear for some people out there saying, why are we giving these people notoriety? Why are we publicizing it to the
Well,
point
we've yet
where...
to say the 23-year-old bomber's name, right? I mean, is that what it is, that they think we're shining light on the bomber?
Well, I think
The
it
lone
just
wolf?
it kind of gives that troubled person the idea of, if I'm feeling this way and I want some type of attention, I saw that he or she got attention by doing this. So if I do the same thing, then my name will go up in lights as
Right.
well. So, but again, when you really think about it and you think about the history of bad things happening, even before social media, even before we had a gazillion news outlets, stuff would happen and there will be other people doing it as well. So I don't think in certain regards you can get around that, because at the end of the day, if you're sick, you're sick.
Yeah.
And if you want to do harm to other
will,
people,
there's a way.
you're gonna find a way to do harm. And I think for me, as far as parents, and how do we teach our kids what to do in certain situations, I think we're coming to an unfortunate place where we're beyond that, because now we have issues with schools and shootings, now concerts, marathons. So at this point, movie theaters, just being in your home, walking down the street, being pulled over. So it doesn't, I think at this point, the question isn't what should we be teaching our kids, it's
How do we prepare them?
how do we, how
Which
do
is
we
a
prepare?
scary
It's a
conversation.
scary conversation, but we're going to
we're
have to
there.
start having it.
Yeah. Jenny actually, kind of to your point, Cornelia, says the realization that we are not safe in any public gathering location in the world today. Time to reconsider where we allow our kids and family to go now. And, you know, I've thought about going on all these trips with my husband overseas a few times, and I've said, you know, I just don't know that I feel safe going to this country right now or this country. And he says, we have to live our lives. We can't live like that. We can't live in fear. We have to be able to live and enjoy the world and enjoy the moments we can make, because if you stay sheltered your whole life, that's not living either.
Yeah.
So, but it's such a touchy conversation, because where do you draw the line? I know my parents say they don't want to go out of the country, period, and they've never been out of the country, and they're comfortable with that.
See, that's out of the country, but it could happen, and it
can
has
happen
happened
anywhere.
time and time again here on home turf. So
Right.
it's one of those things. Yeah, do you live in fear? And then if you're in your home and something like this happens, how does that? You know, how is that different? It's still happening. The fact of the matter is, it's happening.
Right.
I guess it's yes, if you're unfortunately in the wrong place at the wrong time, but you could be at the right place at the wrong time. You know,
Right.
far away from this. You could be overseas when something here at home happens. Not a good situation either.
True.
So you continue to live that life. At least that's what, you know, the advice I'd given to my cousin. I'm in this group thread with a bunch of girlfriends, and they hear about this news and they go, Megan, what do you know? Because they know I'm in news and I'm getting this information. And she's like, I have a trip planned with my boyfriend. You know, we're going to Paris next month. And I'm like, you know, you got to continue to do you.
Yeah.
But I understand that fear that we all face, but I think it's becoming more reality for even all of us. We hear about these bad things happening in the world every single day, from our own community to overseas. And so I think at some point we become a little callous to it, right? Like, oh, another
one.
shooting, another a bombing, and it's sad. But
Yeah.
it's the world we live in today, and it's how we prepare ourselves. President Trump also tweeting this
Yes.
morning, and he also not mentioning the name of the suicide bomber, but instead calling him a loser, because he says if by calling them a monster is what they want, he or she, in this case, Prime Minister, oh, excuse me, that's the wrong tweet. He said, we stand in absolute solidarity with the people of the United Kingdom. And it's a picture of both of our flags. So it's just interesting. We know he's overseas right now as well.
Yeah. And also, I was watching Dancing with the Stars last night, and
very end,
Emma
that's right.
Slater is one of the dancers who is left with Rashad Jennings. And at the very end of the feed, you see Tom Bergeron make the announcement to the ballroom and to the rest of the television audience that they were getting these new details about Manchester, and they had heard that there was a bombing, and he wanted to express his solace and condolences to the families. And Emma Slater is from the UK. She's a dancer. She grew up there. And you can see in the background, she was going, what happened in Manchester?
Yeah, did you see
what
her
happened?
mouth?
Yeah. She was in shock, and it was supposed to be a time where everybody was celebrating, and then all of a sudden she heard this news. Well, she went on Twitter this morning, or at least overnight, to say that she too is, thinking about all the families and praying. But it's not just, and I think that's where social media too plays that role. It's not just the people who live in those communities who are feeling this. We all are, and I think that all of our voices and all of our thoughts and prayers can be somewhat therapeutic for us to be able to get our opinions out about it, and to be able to feel like we can express how we feel too. But it just reminds you that so many people have been impacted by this, and it's hundreds and thousands of miles away.
And think about Ariana Grande. I mean, she's a young girl herself.
Yeah.
She came out with her new album last year, and she's dating Mac Miller. She's on this high in life, thinking she's doing well, goes overseas, part of her tour, her Dangerous Woman album. And you can see that shift in her as an artist, right? She tries to, recently at least, to go that sexier route, to try to get this older audience. That's at least what it seems like to us. But at the end of the day, she does have a very young fan base, which goes back to who was in the audience last night, from parents to that 8-year-old to the 18-year-old. And I know when, for her, and it was someone who tweeted this morning saying, I hope that she can find some peace of mind. Because I think as a human being, as an artist, someone who's bringing all of these people together, you feel a sense of responsibility. Is it
Absolutely.
me? Were they targeting me? I didn't die.
Right.
I didn't get hurt. Yet 22 people are dead, 59 injured, and a kid as young as 8 years old is dead today as she was there for me.
Yeah.
Like,
and it switches on the business side of concerts and promotions. It changes things from that perspective as well, because now when artists, because not just Ariana Grande, now other artists are going to be traumatized by this event.
Right. I'm sure they already have been,
already
right?
traumatized. So
And
now
she's canceled the rest of her
she's
tour.
canceled her tour. So
Has she officially canceled it?
That's what TMZ is reporting.
Okay, because I know earlier this morning, right, it was that she was canceling just in the UK.
Well, she already did her.
overseas,
I think
yeah.
she already did. Did she already do her U.S. leg as
American leg?
well?
I think it's just the international
Right.
leg that's left.
So
that she
again,
canceled.
as far
I'll
as
check, though.
security, now you have to take other precautions, as where before you would get the standard security for your shows, and you would make sure that the traditional people were in place to ensure your safety. Now it's going to be locked down at concerts, because no artist wants to go through this. No artist wants to be responsible, even though you're not really responsible, for anyone being hurt at their show.
The gathering of
The
people.
gathering of people in the spirit of supporting your artistry and just wanting to have a good time and hear you sing. And for something like this to happen, I wouldn't be surprised if now at concerts worldwide we're going to see a shift in security. And they're already locked down. When you go to a concert now, you got to go through the security check-in, you got to go through metal detectors, you get wanded down, they check your
Right.
purse. I wouldn't be surprised if that's taken to the next level.
Yeah, and this is going to become political, of course. This is what happened after France and with the election last year. Trisha Steinbrook says we need to do everything we can to keep this out of the U.S., including the travel ban. So, that is a conversation that continues to pop up anytime we see something like this happen internationally, because we feel in America like, okay, it hasn't come here yet. How can we prevent this? How can we keep it from coming here? I mean, it's happening here.
Yeah.
Clearly, San Bernardino happened, and there have been other incidences as well. But, that's another conversation. Do you think something like the travel ban is going to help? Or do you think that ostracizes the wrong people? I don't know. I'm not going to say what I think, but
Yeah.
it's a conversation worth having.
It is, and then it's the conversation about, because Timothy McVeigh was an American, so you have to, the conversation, if you want to, at some point we're going to have to look at it from a real clear-eyed perspective to see what we can do in this next level of just being human beings and being on this earth where people have access to so many things. We're going to have to take a look at it, and I don't know what that means or what that will take, but we're here
when
now.
I first heard, ISIS takes responsibility, of course, and it happens almost immediately, because whether they trained this person or not, they're going to take responsibility for because they want to instill that fear, and they're going to, whoever is taking from their online tutorials on how to build bombs or whatever it may be, and then going out and acting as a lone wolf in this case suicide bombing, yes, we'll take responsibility, because again, that puts them on the map as them taking over the world. So that's also another thing. What are they doing?
Yeah.
That's getting the attention of these people, what did President Trump say? Not to call them monsters. I thought that was a really interesting thing.
Yeah.
Not to call them monsters, because that's what they want.
That's what they want.
There's a yearning for this attention, and for me, by not saying their name is a one tiny way of saying, you know what, you don't get that attention that you wanted.
Yeah.
The names of the people who you killed will get that attention,
Yeah.
and that still does them no justice.
Right.
So
Well, clearly we have a lot to say. We want to keep seeing your comments, so keep on chiming in, and we'll go back through and look
Yeah.
at your comments throughout the morning.
going back to whether or not Ariana Grande has indefinitely canceled the tour, I am seeing multiple reports online since we had the newscast in here. Grande has a concert scheduled on Thursday
Right.
at the O2 Arena, but according to TMZ, she has indefinitely suspended her world tour.
Yeah.
So I can imagine. I mean, just for
Yeah.
her, the devastation, right? Not going to be
PTSD,
stepping
yeah, you're
on a
traumatized.
stage anytime soon, because that she could have been hurt if not killed as well.
Yeah.
All right, we'll keep you guys updated and continue to chime in, like Dina just mentioned, to lighten things up